If you like this podcast or the previous ones, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Frankie'sPod. It just goes to help fund the software and the hosting. Right, welcome back to the podcast. This evening is going to be a little bit different to what they normally do. You know, where normally I talk to a veteran, or one day we'll be talking to a serving soldier, but that won't be for a while. This time I'm talking to Sophie. Sophie is it a derogatory term, a Pad's wife? I don't know, is it?
I don't know, to be honest. It's just kind of a name that I think it's supposed to be. I think it is supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be like we just stay at home and don't do anything, and that's what a pad wife is.
Well, I mean, the thing is, even when I was serving, we'd call anyone who was married a pad. You know, bean stealers, pads, you know, they're coming in to fucking steal food out the cook. God, I used to look at the cookhouse when I was on duty. Free food. Exactly,
Yeah.
you know, bean stealers, pads wives, pads brats, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it is derogatory anymore, really. Or it's not really, because it's just a word.
Yeah, exactly.
It's become synonymous, you know.
Absolutely. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I've been called a hell of a lot worse, so
Yeah,
pad wife is fine.
I've been called a lot worse, and usually to my face as well, the bastards.
Oh.
Right, so before we crack on with this, just so people get a bit of a feel for you, can you just give us a bit of background about you, like where you grew up and you know, shit like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a bit of a box of randoms. I have been here, there, and everywhere. I was born in Singapore, lived in Singapore until I was 6.
Hell.
Everyone's so shocked when I say that. And then moved back to the UK, and then when I was 13 I moved to France, and I did all secondary school in France. And then moved back to the UK, and then I went and taught out in Thailand for kind of 6 months-ish, and then came back and started a career, and here I am, and now I'm married to a soldier.
So I mean, initially there, Singapore. Wow, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I've interviewed a guy who grew up in Singapore. He was, I mean, this was years ago. You know, you're talking in the 60s. And you know, and I always remember from his podcast, one of the things he said to me, and it just sticks in my mind all the time now. He goes, "Yeah, I had a fight with next door's monkey," and I was like, "What?" And he said, walking home from school or something like that, when he was a little kid, and the married quarters they had, like they could, you know, they had animals, you know, pets, local pets and stuff like that. And one of them had a fucking monkey on a chain. And the monkey went for him. So he said I had a stand-up boxing match with this monkey outside the house.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, to be honest. I'm not surprised.
I mean, do you remember much of Singapore?
Not really, to be honest. We were kind of back and forth. So my dad was in the banking sector, so Wells Fargo and things like that. So we were back and forth, and one minute I was at the international school in Singapore, and then I was back home at my school in the UK. So I don't remember much. No, I remember that Singapore is super clean, like it is, insanely clean. And
like
we lived in
chewing illegal or something, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then we lived in a hotel for a bit, and I actually have this specific memory. It was like a glass elevator, and I got stuck in it, and I was very, very young, and I was on my own. I was absolutely petrified, and I have been petrified of lifts since. Absolutely hate them.
I kind of get that. Yeah, I kind of understand
that. Yeah. So I'm like first in and first out if there's a lift.
Yeah.
Like I will barge people out the way to get in and out first because they petrify me.
So what was doing like secondary school in France like? I mean, I can't even remember any words of France from school. Any
France.
words of France? What
I
the
think you mean
fucking hell
French.
was that? I can't even speak English.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm not going to lie, it was tough being 13, I thought my whole entire world had imploded when my parents took me out and took me to France and put me in a French school, because at the time, 13-year-old girl, I was just getting interested in boys, having my first boyfriend. My girlfriends were like, literally, you just think the world is ending when you're that age, if anything like that happens. But it was also the best time of my life, and I still have friends from there that I speak to. And it was difficult when I first went into school because I had no idea what anyone was saying to me, because I spoke a little bit French because my grandma was French Egyptian, but I literally had no idea. And the trickiest bit was Spanish class. So how we learn, how we learn French or Spanish. I was in France learning Spanish, and I was like, I don't know if they're fucking speaking in Spanish or French to me right now, and just had no idea. But somehow I made it through, and so there we go.
Just as soon as you said that, I just thought my head just went fuck off.
Yeah,
I'm not even going to try and unravel that one.
I know, but I remember I had to do a presentation. And I went from like Spanish to like French, then to English. And my Spanish teacher was like, Sophie, you're now speaking French. And I was like, well, no, I actually don't know that. I have no idea what I'm saying. I'm just speaking and hoping for the best. Which, it's tough for a 13, 14-year-old. But I now have a second language for it and friends for life. And not many people can say they spent that time in France abroad, and it was amazing. It opened a lot of doors for me. I was in Emmerdale because they were filming at my parents' cafe, so I was an extra in Emmerdale when I was like 15, so I had a great time.
So coming back to the UK then, did you know? You weren't away that long, I suppose, but did you notice a difference from when you left to coming back? And obviously your attitudes will have changed. You were a bit older and stuff like that. Did you feel as though you didn't fit back in, or did you just slide back into the norm?
Yeah, massively. So, funny story, the 2 days before I was due to move back to the UK, my dad was already working back in the UK and was sorting out housing and stuff ready for my mum and I to come over. But I had enrolled at my old secondary school to do my A-levels because it's different qualifications out in France, and I decided that I wanted to go to university. And I was having, a get together. I just turned 18. We were in the park, at, I don't know, at 10, 11, thought we were really, really cool, having a few drinks. And a friend of mine had arrived to come and meet us, and me and this other, my best friend at the time, his name was Sam, we were like, oh, I'll race you. So we ran, and there was like a bridge over this big ditch, and for whatever reason it was pitch black, so we couldn't see. We missed the bridge, fell down the ditch. I broke my nose, had knocked myself out, knocked Sam out in the process, and I had like 7 stitches and my whole face swelled up. I've still got a bit of a scar. So I then flew back to the UK with all these stitches in my face and a broken nose, and cuts and bruises, and had to go to my sixth form open day to meet all my new peers, literally looking like an avatar, because my whole face was just out here. And everyone was staring at me, and I was like, oh my gosh. And there was so much speculation, oh yeah, I heard she beat up a bloke, and I heard she did this. And I was like, no, I was just really fucking clumsy and ended up falling down a ditch and knocking myself out. So it would have been a lot cooler if I had probably maybe done something along the lines of the rumours, but sadly not. So I found it really difficult fitting in that sense, just from those first few days, because there was already assumptions. And also I went back 2 years. So I was 18 going into sixth form with 16, 17-year-olds. And when you're 18, you think you know it all. And I was like, yeah, I'm 18. Like so it was difficult. It was a difficult adjustment. But again, I made amazing friends, and it's definitely shaped who I am today. It allowed me to go to university, which I dropped out of after a term, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah, we
And
will.
gosh, I'm just a university dropout basically. And yeah, so it was great, and I studied performing arts, and I studied sports science, and loved it.
Did you find that because I suppose you could call it your formative years in France, and the French have a different outlook on life to us.
Yes.
I know we're very similar in that we hate each other.
Yes, I know.
They
I
do.
got
I mean,
the brunt of that.
as much as we take the piss out of that and everything, there is some deep grained, I wouldn't say animosity, because it is mostly banter, or at least I hope it is anyway.
Yeah, I think there's underlying truths, isn't there, in it?
Yeah.
But it is fundamentally banter. Yeah.
So when you've come back, obviously, the years that you'd spent out there, you've formulated opinions and feelings about stuff like that. Did that affect anything when you come back? Did you just think, oh well, fucking English or whatever? Did you always identify as, I'm English living in France, or did you get some of that, that the fucking onion eaters in you and stuff like that?
That's such a good question. No, because when I was in France, I was very I am British through and through.
Yeah.
And
You only in Jack shorts and all that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. And they don't have uniforms out there, so I made sure that everything. It was weird because all my French friends would think that I was like any British. There was quite a few British in the area that I was in, so I did have a good a group of English friends as well. But they just loved everything about us being we were foreign students, so we were really
exotic.
cool to them. Yeah, we were exotic. I wouldn't really call where I'm from exotic in the UK, but it is what it is. But I struggled going out there because of the life I'd built in the UK, and then when just before I moved out to France, I was actually scouted for the 2012 Olympics and asked to train for gymnastics. So I've done gymnastics since the age of 2. Obviously, not anymore. I could probably throw a cartwheel and a somersault on a trampoline, but maybe not quite what I used to do. And my mum was like, right, you have 2 choices. You can go and train and see if you get picked for the England team, or you have your horse. I mean, asking, and I was 11 at the time, an 11-year-old girl whether they want their horse or to go and work really, really hard to be a gymnast, I was like, well, I'm picking my pony. So I picked that, and then after that, I carried on with gymnastics, I just stayed at the local club and didn't I didn't go any further with that. But I left so much behind that as 13, leaving my pony, leaving gymnastics, leaving all the friendships I gained. And like I said, 13, just starting having my first boyfriend and things like that was so hard. And then getting to the end of my time in France and going, I'm having to do it all again.
Yeah.
But it was the right move. It was difficult. I was umming and ahhing. My mum was like, if you want to stay in France, we stay in France. If you want to go back to the UK, my mum was like, I'm going to come back to the UK with you. And I was like, I just think for my education and career prospects and stuff, it was quite oldie worldy back there. Yeah. So, when the iPhone came out, God, that makes me sound really, really old. When the first iPhone came out,
how do you think I feel?
When the first iPhone came out, it wasn't a thing in France, right? They didn't really have, in the area that I was, they weren't really into the technology. That was such a luxury. And then, but in the UK, everyone had mobile phones at that age.
Yeah.
So they were like, "Oh wow, you've got an iPhone," and they were like so like intrigued as to the iPhone I got, and I just couldn't really understand. And then I'd be like, "Should we all go bowling this weekend?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I've never been bowling." I was like, "Pardon?" Like it was just things like that, and I found it quite hard to adapt. Because I was like, what does everyone do? But they go and they sit in cafes and they
Yeah.
have it sounds so cliche, but they literally go sit and have pain au chocolat and things like that. They go to the night markets and things like that. So it was
All the stuff that
amazing
we
because
think's cool.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's fucking hell.
But then back in the UK, and I think my parents did the right decision because, you know, sitting in a cafe in France with my friends or getting drunk in a field with my friends, you know, I mean, I know what I would have preferred, but as a parent's perspective, I do understand it, and I was very sporty. I wasn't academic. So they wanted me to have like a second language behind me, and it did help. It did help.
I mean, you've got to you've got to thank them for the life experiences that you've had. They're gonna build on your life for the future as well.
100%. And I've
You
got
know,
some cracking stories.
yeah. You know,
Not many
it's
people
like
can say I was born in Singapore.
no, they can't. Apart from everyone in Singapore.
Yeah, apart
Uh,
from that, it's a bit of a shit story when you're in Singapore, but anywhere else it's
yeah.
great.
Oh, I was born in Hartlepool. Yeah, fucking hell.
Oh,
Not
that's a
exactly the
great
same.
story, that one.
Yeah. I'm a monkey hanger. So hey, come on. Right. So moving on a bit. So you've like gone to uni for a little bit. You know, all right, we won't touch on that. Come on then, why'd you leave?
It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I had my first exam the next day. And I remember I called my boyfriend at the time and I was like, I'm not very good at exams and I don't think I'm gonna pass. And he was like, "What do you want to do? Do you want to come home?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not just gonna come home, I'm dropping out." And he was
Mm.
like, okay. So he was like, "Yeah, we'll come home." And his mum actually drove at 3 o'clock in the morning to Bournemouth University, picked me up, and I never went back.
That's a big bold step, that, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
do you regret that? Or
Sometimes, yes. But then I'm like, I'm a big believer everything happens for a reason, right? We're all on a path. Even when you're going through a shit time, it's
yeah,
shaping you as a person, okay? And at that time, I do look back and I'm like, oh, I wonder what would have happened if I'd finished my degree and then carried on. Where would I be now? But I also think if I had finished my
littles.
degree, yeah, littles, yeah, working in a pub trying to figure out what career I want,
Yeah,
I wouldn't have met my husband or anything like that, and I wouldn't
yeah,
have
exactly.
have the opportunities now. So no, I don't regret it, but there are aspects of it that I regret.
Right. So moving on to that, you just mentioned about meeting your husband. So how did you meet him?
Oh God,
Do I
Tinder.
need to like turn the lights down and stuff like this for this one?
No. It's not glamorous at all. I met him on Tinder.
Well, right. No, I'm not going to laugh. I'm
You're
not going.
lost
I'm
for
not going to.
words.
No, right.
I'm
So
the stereotypical padwife.
in my day, right. So, right. Give me a minute, right? Because in my day, obviously, there wasn't Tinder.
Yeah.
There wasn't fucking electricity. So I kind of met my wife at the time, in the old version of Tinder. So she was a pen pal. So
Oh
I was serving in Ireland at the time.
wow. Mhm.
We wrote and I've told this story many times on the podcast. Um, I wrote to the Sun, and we asked for pen pals, and they used to have
Mhm.
like a section in the paper all them years ago. We'd open up, we'd pause on page 3 for a long time, and then we'd carry on with the rest of the paper. But they had, in the letters bits, they used to have like a pen pal thing in there. So you'd write into them, and they'd send you, some guy must be sat in an office just with a bucket of letters going, right, you can have them ones, we'll send
Yeah.
him letters, And people used to just write in and ask for, it was just, that's how it was. Now, at the time, this was like 1988, 88, 87, 88. I'm getting old. The Daily Star had just became popular as a paper, and the page 3 in the Daily Star was in colour, I think. So we used to get that one as well. And I wrote to them, and we'd moved from one area to another. We moved from the Maze prison up to Crumlin Road prison, and we were guarding that. And I got called down from the tower. I was in it. I thought, I'm the shit here. What's up? And they said, Brit Commander's fucking, what's this? I was like, what? Have a look. And there's my letter in the fucking paper, name, rank, and number, and BFPO address, the lot. And I was like, fuck.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in the shit here, you know what I mean? And he says, just if no one rings us, you've probably got away with it. Don't worry about it. I was like, fucking hell. We had another 10 days or so up at the Crumlin Road, and I was bricking it for going back down to the main. And when I walked into the accommodation, they were Big Boss was there, the troop sergeant and stuff like that. They were all there, going, right, you want to fucking murder you? And I was like, oh, what? And I says, yeah, you've got some mail. I was like, eh? You know the old postal sacks?
Yeah.
There was 2 of them full in the corner of in the block. There was 2 full of them.
They weren't all from your wife?
No. They were from everyone in the UK. Right, so I had all these people that respond. So it was good. We had there was photos in these and all sorts. There was some of them a bit,
Did you get any underwear sent?
Yes, we did.
Yes, I can imagine.
We got offers of marriage. There was one old girl from Blackpool who had 6 daughters, and she wanted them all married off, and she had a bed and breakfast. So she said, when you come back from Ireland, you can all come and stay and basically pick a daughter. We were like, what the fuck's going on here? I ended up selling the letters for £1 a go to everyone. So the lads would come in and go, I've got any letters left? Yeah. There's one.
Oh my God. Well. I mean,
so it was like
what a great idea. Make yourself a buck.
Yeah, no, I wrote back to 3 of them. One turned out she was only 16. So that was a no-go. You know what I mean? I wasn't much older myself, but even I have models. Well, have I? No, probably not.
Are you sure?
No. Yeah. There was another lass who was really into her fitness, because all the photos she sent, she was in the gym, and I was like, not for me, thanks, because I'm not into my fitness. And to my ex-wife, and everyone said, oh, whatever. I went home we come back off on leave. Went up and met her. Come back. That was right. So here you go. Right, that was in the January that I met her. Went back to Germany after knowing her for 2 days. We got posted back to the UK in the end of March. Went on leave at the beginning of April. I went up to see her and stayed there. Went AWOL. Fell madly in love, didn't want to leave, stayed there. We got married in the July.
Yeah.
And we were married for 30 years.
Ah, but what a great story.
And
but
I
want to know, though, what happened when you went AWOL? Did you go back? Or was that it?
Right, so I went AWOL. We got married. I got married while I was AWOL. So I didn't get married in uniform.
If you're going to do it, you may as well do it.
Well, they asked us, they said, what's your occupation? Because you got to put your occupation down. I don't know if you still do, but you did then.
Yeah, you did.
And I says, I'm in the artillery. So they put my occupation down as a gunner in Royal Artillery. And she said, the registrar's going, are you going to be getting married in uniform? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I signed on the dole, doing employment training as an electrician. I rocked up there and I says, because I was fed up of just sitting with no money and looking over my shoulder, thinking they were all after me.
Yeah.
So after about 4 or 5 months into it, I went and signed on the dole and got this employment training gig. And one night we got very drunk because a couple of the mates from Hartlepool come to see me. Got very, very drunk, and I got lost. And I knew that the way back to the flat was the metro lines, like the railway lines in Newcastle. So follow them, and it'll take you back to the flat.
Yeah.
But instead of following them, I climbed down and got on them and walked along them. And unbeknown to me, as I climbed down and got onto near a bridge, there was a police car going over the top.
Oh no!
And he looked and he'd seen me and he went, right. So he drove round to the metro station where the platform was and just waited. So I'm trundling along, happy as Larry, climbed up on the platform, walked out the metro station, and the guys just stood there looking at me and goes, what were you doing? I went, I'm lost. Already had a bit of a conversation. He says, where you live? I said, actually over there. I could see the flat. And
Yeah.
he checked me and he went, no, you don't. No, you're not there. There's no record here. And I was like, and I think he knew because he could tell could tell I was a squaddy now. So I just
Yeah.
said to him, I'm AWOL. And he went, oh, fuck's sake, how long? I says, since April. He says, it's nearly December. He goes, I can't let this one go. I was like, oh. He goes, it had been a couple of weeks. He goes, I'll let you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was an ex-squaddy.
Okay.
Took me down to the police station, locked me up. He then went back to the house, picked Sue up, and brought her down to the police station. And that doesn't normally happen, so we could say goodbye, basically.
Yeah.
Got remanded for a couple of days in Catterick. And then, because she was pregnant, they put me down as like a flight risk. So
Okay.
my regiment at the time was on Thorney Island, which is like as far south as you can get.
Yeah, I know.
So a couple of guys drove up. Well, they sent 4 lads up for me. I don't know what I thought I was going to do. 4 lads sent up for us in the back of a Land Rover. Threw me in the back of a Land Rover. Drive me back down. Everyone's worried you're going to do a runner and stuff like that. We stopped halfway down at the services. And they all got out, went for a fucking McDonald's, left me in a wagon.
Oh, that is
Job
cruel.
bastard. I was handcuffed. I was handcuffed.
They didn't even bring you back a cheeseburger.
No, they didn't. Wankers. I got them back. I got them all back later on in time. Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Off the list. And I got put in close arrest for 68 days, and then I got sentenced to 198 days, which was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
They promised me that I was going to get 56 days discharge, and I'd basically, because I'd already done 68 days close arrest, I'd leave. I'd be gone. And whereas it turns out on my court-martial, my prosecution was better for me than my defence was. So, it made me out to be a gleaming soldier and stuff like that. And I was just like, who's that they're on about? That's not me, Yeah, and went off to Collyneck. Oh, sorry, the Military Corrective Training Centre. Did my time in there, come out as a different person, almost. Literally, people didn't recognise me.
Oh,
When
wow.
my daughter was born when I was in Nick. I was in Nick, I was in the Corrective Training Centre. Yeah, so I didn't see Carly till she was 3.5, 4 weeks old. Because they wouldn't let me out, obviously, because I was punished. When I remember rocking up back at home, knocked on the door, and the missus come down, and opened the door, and just looked at me and went, "Yeah." I went, "What do you mean, yeah, it's me?" She's like, "Don't recognise you. You've lost so much. Don't look. Get upstairs." I was like, "Well, no, it was, that's so. Well, you've all got Tinder and stuff like that now. Old styley was pen pals, and it did
But
happen.
I
That's how we
think
met.
that's such a more exciting story than Tinder.
I'll put it this way, as I said to you before, I've been living on my own for 5 years. We've been separated for 5 years, and I didn't want to date or anything like that until recently. So I did start on the old Tinders and like fucking Bumble, whatever.
Oh, I know. I can
through
never understand how that worked, really.
I don't know. It's like, I mean, I'd give it, if I'm going to give anyone dating advice, and I really shouldn't because I'm crap at it. Use Facebook dating, because Facebook, we've got a dating app and it's free.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people do, but it's I found it better. I didn't have much luck with old Tinder and all the other ones and fucking whatever they call them. I can't even remember what they're called now. But I did meet someone in the end, which was lovely. Local, and we've been together. Well, together, yeah, we are together. I don't even say. I don't know why I said it that way.
Don't let us see that. Don't let us.
I don't think she listens to my podcast, so I think I'm safe. Yeah, we've been together like a good few months now, and we're getting on. It's great. We don't see a lot of each other, just work-wise and stuff like that. And I just hope the war in Ukraine stays going on because that's where she's from, and I don't want her to go.
Oh, that's really good, exciting stories. Literally, like, I love that, and I love hearing stories like that. My grandparents, apart from my granddads, both passed away when I was really, really young, but I would have loved to have heard their stories because they were both, obviously, they fought in the war, and one got an MBE. So, yeah, I would have loved to have been old enough to really hear those kind of stories. So I love hearing them. Love hearing them and how that happened. But it just, yeah, Tinder. He paid for, like, you get super
Yeah.
likes.
Yeah.
And you can
No,
pay to
I
have.
don't know. I didn't pay for mine. Nobody fucking answered. Anyway.
So it notified me to say this person super likes you. If you swipe right, it's an automatic match. And I was like, oh, okay. So I had a look and I was like, oh, not sure. And I've always had a bit of a thing for the military. I'm like I said, typical frickin' padwife. I get comments on my things like, I asked AI to draw me a padwife, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's me. I am a padwife. That is me. And I saw that he was in the army, and I was like, oh, go on then. And yeah, here we are. He actually, funny enough, he was getting deployed a few weeks later, and he just wanted a quickie, but he's ended up with a wife, so joke's on him.
Yeah. Fucking expensive super like that, wasn't it?
Exactly, it was. Yeah, it was. But
That's what
yeah,
I used to say to her. That's the most expensive stamp I've ever bought. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, literally. But yeah, that's how we met.
So I take it, obviously, you got married after a while, and you knew you were
Not
going
really after a while, to be honest.
no, quite quickly, was it?
Well, so yeah,
No, don't say we got married before he was deployed.
Oh God, no.
No, it's not 1942, you know.
No. No, so we started talking in the January. We officially got together in March after, like, meeting up a few times, and he proposed in the December in 2020.
I see. I did that within 6 months. He wasted 6 months there.
Oh, he did. He waited till
Because you
9
remember what we were
months.
saying earlier, January, March, April.
Yeah.
And we got married in the July, so one to me, I beat her on that one.
Yeah, you do. You can have that one. You can have the top trump. But yeah, so we got married, and it was right in the middle of COVID, and there was just so much going on. And then the battalion got moved from where they were, which was about 20 minutes from me originally, to where we are now in Aldershot, which is about an hour away from. Yeah, I don't even blame you for that. I totally agree. About an hour away from where I'm originally from in the UK, which is Buckinghamshire, and we had a shotgun wedding to get a house. Even more cliche.
Fucking hell, is it ever?
I know.
Oh, man.
We were engaged. We were engaged, and we had our wedding booked. And at the time, they didn't have the LTR thing, and I was like, do you know what? We're engaged.
LTR?
Long-term relationship. Which is like, so now, if you can prove that you've been together for a year.
Right, what I haven't said is I've been out of the army for 12 years, so I don't know that stuff then.
So if you can now prove that you've been in a long-term relationship for a year, so you've got like proof of bank transfers, things like that, same address and all that jazz, you can get housing without being married. Yes.
That's dangerous, that is.
I know. But when we were applying for housing, and he doesn't drive, so I was driving back and forth, which really wound me up. And I was like, we're married. We've booked our wedding venue. We're engaged. It's not like we're just randomly doing this. But he goes away so much because he's in a guards regiment. If I can speak, a guards regiment. He's away so much that I was like, I don't want to not see you in the week when we could be living together. Yeah. So I gave up my flat share, and the Padre married us in Aldershot Church, which was delightful. And yeah, we didn't tell anyone, and now I'm just telling everyone who listens to your podcast. We didn't really tell anyone. We had his best man and my maid of honor there, and then another one of my friends, and we got married, went for a drink at the pub, and that was that. And we don't celebrate the anniversary or anything. We don't consider it anything like that, but we did get the house within a month.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, you're saying a shotgun wedding. It's not that bad. You know
No,
what I mean?
it's not. And I think so. There's a lot of people who do make fun of military spouses who are like, oh, you're just doing it because you want the house and stuff like that. And I do get it. There are wives that do it. Don't get me wrong. And
right,
there are people.
Here's something for you then, right? I mean,
okay.
I was going to make that joke, right? I was going to say that.
Go on. You can.
No.
Go on.
So this LTR stuff, the RAF and the Navy used to do it years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, a long time ago. I lived in our first married quarter was in Gosport.
Mm-hmm.
And the flat that was, so it was like flat. Now 6 flats next to each other. And the opposite one to us was one of them. So when the lads used to come back off, you know, from being on the ship or on the sub or wherever, and they were on shore leave they're going to be working on shore for a year, they could bring their girlfriend down and move in. And that used to blow my mind. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. And their march outs and stuff like that were very different to ours. Like, they'd literally walk out. You know, they weren't like ours where we've got the fucking iron the carpets type of thing, you know.
Yeah, it is literally like that.
Yeah,
you
we'll
move in and it's a shithole. Yeah, we shall. I've got a lot to say on that.
I can imagine. I mean, I remember. I won't even go. I think I got one quarter refused because I didn't iron the curtains. And they were drailing. You can't fucking iron it. I'm serious.
I totally believe you. I just think it's just bloody ridiculous.
Yeah, and then the quarter we moved in at the other end was shit.
Moldy.
You know, I mean, it wasn't shit, but they didn't have no one had ironed the curtains there either. I should have refused it. But
well, do you know what it is? They charge you for stuff they expect you to do when you move out. Yeah. But then they don't then do it before the next person moves in. So they charge you for something you haven't done, but then they don't put it right before the next person moves in.
I mean, my first quarter we moved into, it was postage stamp carpets, so they didn't meet the walls all the way around. Right, you know, they weren't fitted carpets. We asked if we could get them exchanged, and the guy looked at me. He folded up the corner, and there was a crow's foot and the date of it. And he says, "I can't. It's not over 25 years old." I was like, "Fucking what?" It was supposed to be purple, but it was brown. It was that old and manky, you know, whatever. The quarters we were in then, when it was windy, they used to send us home from camp, and we lived about 25 mile away because the roofs used to lift up in the wind, you know, and stuff like that. I mean, luckily we got moved out of there.
Yeah.
And into another quarter, which was a lot nicer. But you know, you know, some of them quarters there, they tried in Gosport, they tried giving to the council. No, it's a place called Rowner, and massive. There was, you know, can you imagine the you know, Portsmouth home with the Navy, and stuff like that, and the military, and there was an air base there and all sorts. There was lots and lots of military. One of the biggest married quarter estates I've ever seen in my life. And they tried giving half of it away to the local council. The local council apparently came up, inspected them, and just went, "No, only if you fix them because they're not habitable. We would put a dog in them." You know, and there were ours and us in it. And most of the quarters I've ever been in, I wouldn't say have been bad, but they weren't a patch on the ones that we lived in Germany. They were just nicer. They were just looked after.
That the ones, so Josh's family were all kind of serving in the military as well, and as they've all said that Germany was brilliant.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was. I mean, it was a different army. You know, everyone was closer and stuff like that. You lived together, you ate together, you drank together, you fought together. You know, and that was all on a Friday afternoon. You know, it was like it was very, very different. UK seems to be very, you know, weekends gone. So if anyone's going to invade, Putin he's looking at his clock and just going, right, is it Wednesday afternoon yet? Right, oh shit, no, they finished PT. Right, Friday afternoon, when Seals PT finish, we'll do it about half an hour after that, and I'll be on EA1. And they're just going to do it then, you know what I mean?
I know.
It's fucking, or Easter or, whatever. I mean, it's the old joke and all that, but it's true. In the UK, everybody disappears, and I don't think the units gel as much as what they used to. I mean, I'm not in the army now, so I don't think it's like. And I've spoke to loads of guys, veterans and stuff like that, and we all, it was hard, always harder in our day, and this, that, and the other. And then when I went to a reunion last weekend, I walked in, and 3 of the guys that were there who served with me. They were my sprokes type of thing. And I was like, and then they introduced us to some of the new lads, the serving lads. And, and they're all different to what we were. They're just the same.
Yeah.
It's got different interests and all that.
I always make a joke because when Josh has been away, whether on exercise or abroad or whatever, wherever he is, when he comes back, you can always tell because it's completely different.
Yeah.
When he's been with obviously everyone in battalion, and then he comes home and I'm like, right, get it all out your system right now, because you're not talking to me like I'm a soldier. Yeah.
Swearing.
Yeah. I mean, I swear a lot more than I should, so I can't tell him off for that. But
I'm being good lately because my girlfriend doesn't like me swearing. She believes it's a lower form of intelligence, but I'm trying to explain.
Everyone says that, and do you know what? I just fucking like to swear.
Well, there was a study done that says it's not the case.
Apparently, you're more creative.
Yes, and I said that to her this morning. She went, right, well, prove it to me. So tonight, after this, I'm going to go and look this study down and show her it.
Do it. That
type of thing. Anyway, let's get back on track because we're just fucking weird off.
I know. Sorry, that's my fault.
It's not. I'm the worst one for it. I've done some of these podcasts and they've just gone totally off.
Yeah.
I was talking to one guy and he was telling me about his time in the army, and his time in the army was really, really short. And it was over dead quickly. And then he just went, oh, yeah, then I got 12 years for attempted murder. Sorry? What? And then the next hour of the podcast was all about him being in jail. And it was brilliant. I was just like,
I mean,
I don't know what to make of it. I was like, what the hell?
I know. It's bad. I'm really into that. I read that book, Talking with Serial Killers. Absolute shocking.
Yeah, but that means there's a serial killer in you trying to get out.
It would not surprise me. I would not be surprised.
Right, anyway, we've done it again. Let's get back on track.
I know.
Right, so what were your initial thoughts? You've got married, you've moved into your quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of know what to expect from being a military wife? Because none of the lasses really, really do, unless they know someone.
No, absolutely not. I don't think anyone can really prepare you for it.
No.
And it's bad. So, I'm trying to word this correctly. Anywhere you go, military spouse or not, workplace, school place, anything, you have good eggs and you have bad eggs.
Yeah.
But the military spouse, padwife community is always known for being a bit like an episode of EastEnders. Yes.
I get it, yeah.
So, and I think, and I don't, I don't want to put my foot in it, but it's very difficult because you meet some people, and it's quite often, not just military spouses, but the housing association for the military, Pinnacle and Amy and all that. And they say, oh, are you in for an appointment? And you go, oh no, I'm working. And they're like, what? And they're genuinely shocked that as a spouse we have a career.
Yeah.
So, and there's this ongoing joke, isn't it, that we don't work and we sponge off our husbands. And are there people that do that? Yes, absolutely.
Thing is, though, right? It's right. I mean, remember, I said I was in the army for 27 years. For like 21 of that, married.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife worked all the way through that, all the way through. She was sentenced to it as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way I've always looked at it is that, you don't marry your husband, you join the army, but you're not getting paid for it because you're still, you still have the ups and downs of it with the relationships, them going away, this going, and that happening. The very, very, very tight knit community that is the small village that you live in, even if it's in the middle of a fucking city. Your little area, your little marry quarters, your little battalion, your regiment, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just it's a hamlet of people, and everybody knows each other. And if they don't,
everyone
they want
knows
to know each other.
Yeah, you've got the ones that keep themselves to themselves, which is absolutely fine. But you've got the ones who, are straight on the spouses' Facebook groups. It's like like Karens, isn't it? On
yeah, but I mean that's just
thingy saying, "Have you seen this? Have you seen that?" And it's like, oh, grow up. But to be fair, I mean, I am a member of a lot of those groups, and as someone coming into this kind of lifestyle, they were so helpful, and you do get so much support, and it is nice to have people who genuinely understand you. So as much as people make fun of the spouse coffee mornings, and I am one of those people, my whole podcast is about the stigma of being a padwife, but
I mentioned it on one of your TikTok things. I put a comment about it because I remember when you mentioned it about that, you and your co-host, and I giggled because I remembered something, and it was like we'd been married. Oh bloody hell! Thumping me bloody mic there. We'd been married a while, but I'd been in jail at corrective training centre. And when we finally did turn up at like camp type of thing, I didn't know what to expect being married. You know what I mean? As much as it's strange for you, it's all of a sudden it's strange for us as well because we've just been lifted out of the block and then dropped in. You've got to grow up.
Yeah.
A lot. You know what I mean? Because oh shit, I can't. Where's the cookhouse?
Yeah.
No, you've got to do your own dinner. Fucking what?
And I think that as well. Like, oh god, he'll probably kill me for saying this, but I don't care. But there are so many things because Josh joined the army when he was 21, but he'd been trying for a while to get in, but there was various things like because he had eczema or something on his hand, they were like, oh, you can't join, like things like that. And so he did it, and he eventually got in, and he was 21, went to training, went to the block, and then he met me. And it's like the life skills that we learn outside of the block.
Yeah.
And then he come like, I shit you not, yesterday he goes, I said he was doing something to do with his license because he's doing his driving, and I said, oh, he went, what, how do I update my address on my license? I went, I beg your pardon? And he was like, how do I update my address on my license? And I was like, well, where the fuck is your address? What is the address on your license? Because we've been married 5 years, and this is our not 5 years. We've been together 5 years, and this is our second military quarter. And he went, oh, it's still Preston. I was like, why? And he was like, well, I've never known how to update it.
Fine.
Is it?
Yeah, if you don't update your license, you get fined £1,000.
Well, to be fair, it's only his provisional because he doesn't drive because he's an idiot.
I think we'll be on. I don't think DVLA is going to be listening to this, so I think we're covered.
Yeah, I think we're good. But it was just things like that, and he was like, "Well, why would I know how to do that?" And I was like, "Well, why wouldn't you?" And it's things like that. You don't need to, and it's like I had an 8-year recruitment career, and I actually help a lot of Josh's serving friends who are getting out. I help them create a CV because there's just nothing. They've never had to have a CV if you've joined young. You've never had to have skills for an interview and prepare. And I was like, you can't go in and be and effing blind and like make the crude jokes because it'd be an HR issue. So I know, but like trying to explain that, but it's a completely different life. So I
Yeah.
completely get it that coming out the block then to married life is a big shock for them. But, and again, and I've got to say it, and I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate for it, but spouses do not get enough credit.
No, they don't.
Um, and I'm all for banter and joking, and as you know,
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I think it's brilliant. But we are essentially we drop everything we know
Yeah.
from the towns that we're in, our family, our loved ones, a life that we've built, and we move wherever the military takes us to be with the person that we love. And then they get sent away, or they're on exercise, and you can't, and it's everything's last minute, you can't plan anything, and trying to explain that. And I say civvy friends, even, and I know I'm a civvy,
No, you're not.
but
Not anymore, you know.
but trying to
You're fucking
explain that to
Pad's
someone
wife,
who,
you're not.
yeah, I'm a pad wife, yeah, that's my job title. um Trying to explain to friends who aren't in this community,
Yeah.
like, I can't make that plan, or, oh, my, do you know what, my husband's home for one night, and they're like, why are you cancelling on me, we've had this planned. And it's like, yes, but my husband's been away for 6 months, he's back home for literally 5 days, and then he's off again. I don't know when I'm next going to see him. I've got, and trying to explain that to people, and I understand that when you're not in this lifestyle, that you don't get it, and then we can lose friends over it because they're not understanding, they don't get it. I see a lot of people, and we get a lot of emails into the podcast that are my parents and my family don't agree with the fact that my boyfriend's wanting to join the army or anything like that, and they threaten to disown me because I'd have to move with them and that kind of thing. And I don't, we're on our own when we're here. We've got to then, you got a lot of you guys move, Josh in particular being a guards regiment, they move as a battalion.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of the same people. And then when we move, which luckily we don't a lot, but the first initial move at least to Aldershot, I changed jobs. I changed jobs. I moved away from my friends. I've still got my horse back where I live that I've got to travel back every weekend to sort out and pay for someone to do them in the week. And then I'm on my own if he's away, and I've got to try and muddle through. We're very, very I say we're very fortunate. We do want a family one day, but I could never imagine how it is. And to be fair, that's what worries me about starting a family, because I was like, I don't know how some of these women do it when their partners are away, raise it, and because you're trying to be strong at the fact that you're on your own, because it's not like you've chosen to not be with them, that you don't have that choice.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, saying the bit about, like, you know, having children and growing up, you know, bringing the children up in the military and stuff like that. Obviously I've been through it, but again, we were lucky in the artillery. We moved, like, we do arms plots like that as well. You know, we don't get individual postings. You know, I've had individual postings. The good thing about that is that, like you say, you're moving as a whole, so your friends are all coming with you. You know, the kids are growing up with the same kids around them, so they end up with friends, and they all move together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, as much as people say, like, oh, you only got married to get out the block, or you only married him to get a quarter and that. I'm just going to touch on something I found out years ago about that, and there is a bit of truth in it as well. In that, in 1995, I went to Bosnia, and we ended up working with some medics and doctors and stuff like that. I ended up driving ambulances. I've been an ambulance commander for it. And there was a doctor, there was a lieutenant colonel, so he wasn't like your normal, like, medic major who's in it, you know, most of the units and stuff like that. He was quite a high, you know, he was picked especially for it because we were expecting lots of shit. Luckily, it didn't happen, and he was very knowledgeable, very good guy. And I was sat talking to him one night over a bottle of brandy and some cigars, even though it was a 2-can rule. He was a pisshead. It was great. And we were on about stuff like that because he got on to about, he used to teach interns at Guy's Hospital. And we were on about, the studies in the UK and things like this. Like, there's still diseases that you get in the UK that are only caused by inbreeding. And it's normally in places that, and I'm not being nasty to anyone, but it is true.
Yeah.
Norfolk is one of them, and the Isle of Shophie is renowned for it because people don't move out the area.
Yeah,
so
and they
the
don't
blood
meet
stays
anyone.
there.
Yeah.
The blood staking it stays there.
Yeah.
And the other thing he mentioned is that there's a lot of, and you're probably not going to like me saying this.
Go on.
But there's a lot of, when I say a lot of, I don't mean like, there's millions of them. But there's a lot of women who actively seek out military.
Yeah.
And it's subconsciously. It's nothing, right, I want him because he's in uniform. I want him because he's in the Navy.
Oh, see, I did. I purely swiped right for Josh because I saw him in uniform.
Well, this is a safety thing. It's subconscious. So they've had a bad upbringing, right?
Right.
Whether it's been abuse or mentally, physically, sexually, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they've been bounced around children's homes. For anything you can think of, and they latch on to people like soldiers, airmen, RAF. Do they really? Yeah. But that's we
won't talk about the RAF.
Yeah. But it's down to stability, and they're subconsciously. I've said that too many times now already. Subconsciously, they're like
Don't worry.
they feel as though they're going to provide safety.
Yeah.
And and the bad side of this is they tend to attract the soldiers that have probably had the same to them.
Yeah.
Because there is many people in the military who have joined the military because, especially to escape. And I've had people come on my TikTok or my podcast and say, "Oh, you're only chasing people from the housing estates and stuff like that." Yes, there's a reason for that because they're not going to be doctors. They're not going to be airline pilots.
And you're giving them a chance.
Not just that, but they're the people who are going to fucking kill someone. You've got to remember that we are training people to go and kill people.
100%.
We're not training people to go up and go, "Hi, yeah." It's not all humanitarian aid. Our job is to. Well, not mine. I work in IT now. Fucking hell.
Mind you, I beg to differ. Seeing my husband trying to catch a duddy long legs the other day.
No, that's very different.
It
I wouldn't do that either.
concerns me. It does. It concerns me that he holds a rifle. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, but he can shoot that duddy long legs. Well, he'd have to be quite a good shot.
I don't know. I watch him do stuff and I think, how did you make it through basic training?
You'd be honest. I'll go back. I'll touch something on that. When you're about like when we leave the block and we don't know what the fuck we're doing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then, it's the same when we go to training. So we don't know where this kid's grown up from, and this other kid's grown up, and you get taught basically to wash, to shave, to wipe your ass.
Yeah.
You get taught all this stuff, and you're thinking. Some guys are thinking, "Why are you doing that? Why are you telling me this kid's over at the back?" Are like, really?
Yeah.
I do what with what? Because they've not been taught by their parents.
Yeah.
Well, they've not been looked after. Everyone, it's all this big melting pot that we get thrown into. And it's the same with the wives, it's from all over. Like going back to that wives club thing. So they asked my wife if they wanted to go to the wives club. And I said, "Oh, yeah, it'd be a good thing. They'll get to meet people." She didn't know anyone. We didn't, And she rocked up. And all it was there was the CO's wife, the family's officer's wife, I think a couple of the BC's wives, and one other lass, and she just sat there as a young 21-year-old mum going, from Jarrow, looking around going, "What the fuck am I doing here?"
Yeah. And
they didn't even make her feel that welcome either, to be honest. You know what I mean?
No, and it's difficult, and I hate it because everyone's like, "Oh, you don't stereotype people," but the people who are often stereotyped, right, are the people who put themselves in that stereotype.
Yeah.
So you get this wherever you go. There's always, you've got, like I touched upon it earlier, you've got the military wife who doesn't want to be involved with anything, keeps herself to herself. You've got the one that knows absolutely everything. You've got the one that's organising all the get-togethers and things like that. And it, unfortunately, those stereotypes exist, and they are there, and there are people that, you know, I was always told, I was like, oh, be careful who. It's hard for me. I'm a very trusting person. I'm very open, and I like to give people a chance. My husband and friends would probably say I give people too many chances, but I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And I don't know whether it's like because I'm trying to like see the good, and I sometimes I see it as I want to be the one that makes them a decent person. I don't know what it is, but I mean, we all have our flaws. Like I know that, but I am very open and trustworthy because I expect if I tell someone something or anything like that, I expect it to be returned. I expect people to do as I do, and I think I'm 30 now, but even now, as a 30-year-old, I'm still trying to say to myself, not everyone is different. Not everyone is going to be what you want them, or how you would do something isn't going to be how someone else does something. So it is hard, and I don't know if you know. So Josh has been away, and I had a really, really tough time. I won't beat around the bush. I had a really, really tough time, to the point where my dad had to actually come over from Spain and stay with me because I was on my own. I have a really great support system of friends, some spouses that I've met, some not spouses, some from, back home, and that I've had for 10 years or so. And I actually got diagnosed with autism and ADHD. And ADHD I kind of knew because I'm very chaotic. However, autism was a massive shock to me. But I'm obviously learning about that, and it's why I take things kind of so literally sometimes. But what I'm getting at, you're probably thinking, what the fuck's she going on about? But what I'm getting at is, as a wife, I had to go through all that while my husband, and the one person that I wanted to turn to, who, although I had this big support system, I couldn't go to because he wasn't there. And there's so many things, again, going back to that spouses don't always get the credit they deserve. They go through so much, and they have to muddle through on their own, whether it be something that I've been through, or solo parenting, or anything like that. We have to just work through it. And like I said, I'm so lucky to have such a fantastic support system of friends, some spouses, some not, but not everyone has that, especially if you're in a new place. If you've just moved there and you have some big thing that goes on in your life, and your husband or your partner is deployed, you're on your own. And it is so hard. So I do think the coffee mornings and the groups and things like that, as much as we have a joke about them, they are good for certain people to get to meet like-minded people. But like you said, you do get the people who don't make you feel welcome, and might turn
like I said earlier, it's just like it's that concentration. It's everything's pushed. It's like you've got, like I say, the Hamlet. I mean, it's probably a couple of hundred families on a bite, especially like say if you're not in Aldershot and you're out on one of the external bases, like say like Topcliffe or Albemarle Barracks in the middle of Northumberland, like that. You are all behind the wire together, and it is somebody farts, somebody can tell you what he had for to eat.
We live behind the wire.
So you can't escape from it. But on the upside of that, you're safe.
We
and
actually
your kids are safe as well.
We did an episode on this, and my friend who's my co-host, Kersha, we would sit in the garden, and there was a play area right outside, and they'd all the kids would go and knock on the door and say, oh, is so and so coming out to play? And we could see them on the park, but also there was no one was getting in. You know, we were on the base, and it was peace of mind. And also, although you do have everyone knows your business and everyone knows that, but it's also a good way to meet people. If your partner is away, you feel safe. I mean, I don't think I ever locked my back door. I'm not going to lie. When I was on base, I never did, because I just felt so safe. I also have a German Shepherd that would probably eat someone if they tried to came in. But yeah. But you asked me earlier, is it what I expected? Like, was I prepared? Absolutely not. And what I experience is going to be different to everyone else's experience. No kind of spouse's journey is going to be the same, and that's a big question I get asked all the time. What can I do? Like, how do I make friends? How do I do this? And they're such good questions, and I understand and I want to help people, but what has worked for me in my journey in making friends as a spouse, or how I get through deployments, is going to be completely different for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I asked one of the interviews I did with the Padwives. I asked them, like, so what was it like when your dad used to deploy a lot? And they were like, well, we didn't really notice. You know, all of a sudden he was there 1 minute and then gone the next, and you expect him to be away a long time. I mean, my kids experienced it. You know, I did quite a few tours and stuff like that, and we were away, and you'd come back, and we'd expect life to just be as it was when we walk out the door, and it isn't.
Yeah.
You know, you're at home, especially if you know, and the wives with children as well, even more so, I think, is that we bugger off. You know, we're out there doing whatever we're doing, wherever we're at, half the time pissed, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we're having a great old time with all our mates. You know, and I'm not saying that. I'm saying that joking. Well, a little bit half-heartedly, because there is a bit of that as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're out there doing a job, and you know, it's not nice in some places, and it's dangerous and whatever. Right? But you're also with your mates having a laugh.
Yeah.
The families aren't. They're at home worrying about this, that, and the other.
Worrying about you guys and holding the fort,
and all the
basically.
thought. But when I asked this lass about and the guy interviewed as well, I said they both said the same thing. And when I've spoken to them, I asked my daughter about it afterwards, and my son recently. And I said, like, I asked them that question, you know, what did you think about when they deployed and stuff like that? And they said, well, we didn't really notice it because we were closeted from it. You know, it was just normal life to us. Everyone else who was in the school, their kids were going away. You know, their fathers were away. So everyone was in the same boat.
Yeah.
So then that family gels, it comes in together, it looks after each other a bit. But it's the mothers, it's the spouses, it's the wives who have got to deal with that gap of he's not there. So we've got to get on with our life.
Hearing that from a Padwives and perspective, and obviously your children, I think that also shows just how much the spouse has made a homey environment, because they've done such a good job, you know, of protecting them from that, oh, I'm missing daddy, oh, I'm missing mummy, whoever's serving. They've done such a good job at creating a normal upbringing for them, and that again just goes to show, like, that person, they have no outlet. They're putting on a brave face no matter what they're feeling that day, because they haven't got someone to be like, oh, do you know what, I just need 5 minutes to go upstairs and have a bath, have a shower, or whatever. They don't have someone to kind of almost say, can you watch the kids, or whatever, can you just sit with them? They are the mum, the dad, the sister, the brother. They are everything to the children. And I think them saying them not noticing is sad, that's what they see as the norm, when it shouldn't have to be.
Very much isn't.
Yeah. However, it's such a big, what's the word I'm looking for? It just shows how much of a fantastic home the spouse or partner has raised and brought by them not seeing it as a downfall.
Right. Okay then. Next question, right? And you might like this one, or you might not.
I'll tell you either way.
Have you, as a military wife, ever sang in a choir? No, I'm not going to say sing in a choir. No. That just
Definitely
popped in my
not.
head. That
You
just
couldn't
popped in my head when I
fucking
said
pay
military
me.
wife.
that is not for me. I mean, credit to them if that's what you like,
Did
but
they make a
absolutely something
movie
else.
of that?
They did. They
Oh
did.
God, good. I thought I was imagining it.
No,
Um,
I think it's called Military Wives.
yeah, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
So as a military wife or a pad's wife or whatever you want to call it, have you experienced any negative sides of that from outside of the military? Like, oh, you're a fucking pad's wife here, type of thing. I mean, we used to get it as squaddies. We used to get it almost being treated like third-class citizens.
Yeah.
For example, trying to get a loan, car finance, this, that, the other, going into certain shops, certain pubs, certain places. Oh, you're in the army,
Yeah.
and literally, because Afghans over, Iraq's over, things like that. We were all lauded to be fucking amazing, and everyone's in the cat, thank you for your service and stuff like that. Now, because it's all died down again, and the only things I think that are going on, I'm not sure, there's like Estonia and places like that, getting deployments out there. We're not in the news as much. Or so we're not. News aren't in the news as much.
Yeah.
So when that, like, in the 90s, when there was not a lot going on, late 80s and stuff like that, literally, in certain places, we were literally, I wouldn't say spat on, but it felt like it.
I know what you mean.
We were classed as low as low.
We actually covered this in our podcast that Kirsha, my co-host, she had experienced that when she would say, "Oh, my husband's in the army," they would be like, "Oh," but no, I haven't. I can't say I have experienced that. To say, "Oh, you're a military spouse." I'm sure it happens.
Oh,
But
it does.
but obviously it's not something I'm like, "Hi, I'm Sophie, I'm a padwife." It's not kind of, do you know what I mean?
So you know what I mean by Ron Hills and stilettos?
No.
Right, okay. So that's like another derogatory thing for Padwives. So
Is it?
So Ron Hills, the running trousers,
Yeah.
running like you'd get, and you would see it. And I have seen it myself. You would get wives, usually young ones. I'll give them the due. That would end
Are you
up with
saying
wearing.
I'm not young?
Fucking everyone's young to me, aren't they? They would be wearing Ron Hills,
Right.
and there were the husbands running gear, and they'd have like a company top on or a battery top on, identifying as like that type of thing. And they'd have like stilettos on as well. And they were going to the shops and stuff like that, dressed like that. And I'd heard that expression, Ron Hills and stilettos, and I thought,
oh God.
And then one day I seen it, and I'm not tarring everyone with the same brush, or God forbid, but it does happen, and you do get stereotypes are only a stereotype because it's happened.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It hasn't been made up. It's happened, and you do get the stereotypical pad's wife, the stereotypical squaddy.
Yeah.
Them, and they're usually the young couple who maybe let's say the brain matter's not all there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was lucky in the sense I met Josh when he was already in the army.
Yeah.
I was 20. But yeah, I was 25 when I met him, 24, 25. But I already had a career. And I had built that career, and I always said to him, and it never even really came up in conversation, but when we were talking about where we might be, I was like, I will always have a career. I will make sure that I have a career. And there's this big thing, and I know it's a struggle for spouses to get a career, because you're moving away or you haven't got someone to look after the kids and you can't go out and about, and I totally get that. However, I do think if you wanted a career that badly, you could make it work no matter what.
Well, as I said earlier, I mean, my ex-wife, she worked all the way through when we were married.
Yeah.
You know,
And
always
I
had a job on
don't,
camp and everything like that.
and
Even
I
when she was
agree.
pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with the struggles. I
Mhm.
agree with the difficulty of moving around and trying to disclose that to employers and things like that. And I do understand the impact of being a spouse can have on your career. However, what I don't agree with are anyone who would say, "Oh, I'm giving up my dream for I'm giving up my career or what I want
Yeah.
to do with my life
No, like
for
you said, I'm giving up my
my
dream for you.
partner."
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, you are. Don't get me wrong, you are. However, if you wanted it that badly, you can make it work. I'm a
Mhm.
strong believer in that. And people will probably come for me and, not agree, and I'll be the worst person on the planet. However, I have had a career the whole time I've met Josh. And I actually lost my job in 2023. I was made redundant and I didn't have a job for 3 months. So do you know what I did? I did a first aid in animal care. I got dog walking insurance and I started doing dog walking to get some money in whilst I looked for another job. I just think that there are options for
Yeah.
people. And don't get me wrong, everyone's situation is very, very different. And it is difficult. It's not an easy ride. But I just don't agree when people are saying, "Oh, I can't work because my husband's in the army." No, you're choosing not to, and that may be the right decision for
Ooh.
that. Maybe cut that bit out.
No. You
You're
always said earlier you need that controversial bit. I
Yes, I
think
know. I'm
just
full of
look
them.
at the timeline on that one. Yeah, that's getting cut out. TikTok, here you come.
Uh, Tag me. um,
No, I mean,
the,
I get
the
exactly what you're saying. I really,
yeah,
really
like
do.
everyone's situation is different, and there are some people who genuinely cannot work and who move around a lot more.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can get up and do to provide, to have some kind of, whether it's a career that makes you money or whether it's a hobby that you enjoy to keep yourself busy. That is up to you. That's got nothing to do with your partner doing anything,
Yeah.
doing what they do. Like I said, very different if you've got a newborn, you've got kids, and you can't do the childcare thing. Totally, absolutely get it. But there are options, and you've just, unfortunately, things don't get handed to you on a plate. You've got to work for it, military spouse or not.
Yeah, true. Exactly. It is true.
Contrary belief.
But then again,
Um,
I just want to touch something on what you just said there, so about your things don't get handed to you on a plate. So, through my experience of being in the army, a lot of things do get handed to you on a plate.
yeah.
Right? When I left the army, fucking big shock to me,
Mm-hmm.
the outside world.
Yeah, I
You
can
know, I've been
imagine.
in that long, institutionalized. The family were institutionalized. Like we were on about the safety thing earlier. So when the first night we were in our civvy house, police car went past and pulled up outside near the house, blue lights on and everything. And we were like, well,
What's going on?
what the fuck's happening? We were up at the fucking windows like,
Mm,
what's there? And then there was another car coming. Oh, fucking hell, the world's going to end. And maybe it was an overreaction of us, but not really. It's just because we weren't used to it. And all of a sudden, I felt unsafe. I didn't know why they were out there, whether there was something wrong. I've walked around the streets of Northern Ireland. I've walked around the streets in Iraq. I've done Bosnia and places like that. And all of a sudden, I didn't like being in the streets in the town I'd moved to.
yeah.
Because there'd be a gang of kids there. And they think, fucking, I'm a big roughy, toughy fucking squaddy. They might have a knife, that type of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I found it to be unsettling and a little bit scary. Well, not a little
Yeah.
bit scary, again, that's like the transition from being in the army to going into civvy, and it's a hard thing to do. But a lot of things were handed to us on a plate, dental, fucking whatever, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think the army or the military does well, you might not agree with me, and a lot of people might not agree with me, but I think the army welfare services are very good. They don't get it right all the time, right? But that's the same as any welfare service. You're dealing with a million different things at once. You've got the families office in a regiment, and that's all right. They've been off and done some little course to help them get along, but that's a hell of a job for someone to take on who's not doing that all their life. You know what I mean? Then when you've got the army welfare services themselves, I'm not on about SAFA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The experiences that I've had of them, and I have I didn't have a lot of involvement in them, but we did have some. They were good with us. They helped us. We didn't need the help that they were offering us. I ended up bringing two of the kids up, two of my grandkids, and they ended up moving in with us. And they offered us a bigger quarter and stuff like that. I didn't have long left in the army. I wasn't going to move quarters for 12 months. Not a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we'll go on to moving quarters in a minute. You know what I mean? Well, I think the Army Welfare Services do a good job in the whole. Obviously, some people could fall through the cracks and stuff like that. But I do think they do well.
I've had same as you. I had every interaction, and I haven't had many, but every interaction that I have had with Josh's regiment's welfare has been fantastic. They've been really, really good. And when he was obviously away when I got my diagnosis as well, they were so supportive, and very understanding and things like that. And then, which I'll say for when we go on about moving quarters, we did a betterment move from behind the wire to the house that we're in now.
Yeah.
And the welfare helped us do that, and they were great. They gave me the information that I needed. They gave me the support. They invited me in. I felt comfortable opening up to them. But I have seen horror stories. But again, it's going back to that, the whole thing of, you could go to Asda, right?
Yeah.
And get fantastic customer service. And then the person that goes in an hour later could get the worst fucking customer service they've ever had, plaster it all over social media or anything like that, and say, oh my God, I had the worst service at Asda, this and that. But everyone's situation is different. So there's no point saying, oh, they're shit.
No.
Because that's not fact, that's opinion.
Yeah. It's like TripAdvisor. So,
yeah. Exactly.
I always look at TripAdvisor after I've booked it, though.
Oh, no.
I
could have told you that.
I always
Calling us Padwives when doing booking.com.
I booked one today, and I'm like, yeah, it looks all right. And I'm shit at doing stuff like that. So I booked one today for a weekend coming up, and I'm like, oh, just check that TripAdvisor. Oh, shit, I've already paid for it.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
No.
It'll be all right. Right, so we did touch on there. We mentioned it a couple of times. Moving quarters.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moves in my time in the military. And I hated every one of them. Apart from one of them was great because the removals guys were brilliant. They even snuck us extra stuff back. That was cool.
Oh, that's great. I mean, you will be lucky here if the military removals turn up.
Seriously?
But again, that's my opinion. That's just what I've dealt, how I've seen it. Other people have had great experiences.
Yeah, I mean, my first move was me moving into a quarter, which involved me, the missus, the baby at the time, and a pushchair and a pram. And that was getting from Newcastle to Gosport when I were on. No car, railway. You know what I mean? That was interesting.
I bet that was fun.
Well, at the time, you couldn't get a rail warrant through London. I still don't think you can. Our ticket wasn't allowed to go through London. So we had to go via Birmingham and Shrewsbury. Yeah, that was a long day.
Yeah,
be
I can
fair.
imagine.
We got into the quarter very late at night. We did have a jar of coffee, but we didn't have any milk. And I had the bright idea. And what I'm going to say now, do not roll your eyes, right?
I probably will.
I fucking hope so, 'cause it's horrible. I went, oh, well, we'll just use that. That's milk. And she looked at me and went, that's baby formula. That's like tried breast milk. I said, be all right. It's milk in it. No, I don't taste me ice and coffee.
Oh God!
I drank it. I was thirsty.
I mean, you got to do what you've got to do, haven't you? To be fair, but I mean, that's exactly. It's things like that, right? So when you moved, actually, sorry, ADHD brain. I'm just going off on a tangent. When you moved, did you have someone that had to meet you to do a march in?
Yes, and the march out. The marchings
okay.
were never too bad. The march outs were horrible.
Yeah, because they charge you for a speck of dirt that's been there since 1922.
Well, so I mean, like before we started recording, we mentioned it. So the stupidest things that I've ever had was like ironing the carpet, ironing the curtains because they weren't ironed. You know, they'd never even been up. We moved into the quarter, took the curtains down, put them in a bin bag, went to the loft.
Yeah.
Cleaned the quarter, took them out, and this was a big regimental move. So they had dedicated teams who were coming round, and then the army housing geezer had come along as well. And at the time, because it was the regimental moving, or a regimental move, there was transport to take families from Colchester up the top cliff, and the bus was leaving. You know, time was getting on. I was driving up in the car, but she always had a fear of cars, so she got booked on the transport. And the guy knew this, and he was like, "Right, I can't accept this quarter because the curtains are creased." And I was like, "Are you taking the piss?" And the sergeant major's in the corner going, "Brrr." I'm like, "Oh." She bursts out crying because all of a sudden there's pressure on her, you know, type of thing. And it was ridiculous. We'll be back in an hour. And I was like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? My iron's in a box on the back of a truck on its way to Top Cliff.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So I'm just like, no. So I just left them. And they came back and they looked and went, see, I told you what to do in the first place. So I never fucking touched them. I just like opened the curtains and shut them.
I think they just make it up as they go along. If I'm honest,
I had one where they were like, right, there's marks in your toilet. You need to clean it. I says there isn't marks in the toilet. They said there is. I said there isn't. There's cracks in the toilet. I keep reporting the toilet, and they were going, no, it's dirt. It's a fucking crack, you know. And
put your hand down there and feel it. See for yourself.
Yeah, you know, but then again, I've had other ones that have been absolutely. All of a sudden, they brought this thing in where you could pay, right?
Is that
just bugger off?
Yeah, it was like £250 or something, and you could just walk out and leave it. They've stopped doing that now.
Oh man, we did. I did. No, I did one move. I did that, and that was me leaving the army. Right. The quarter I had then used to flood twice a year because of where it was on camp. Never used to come in. It was great, but it touched the carpet once. Right, literally, like a little trickle come over the step, and the housing guy come down to inspect the house because it had been flooded, and he knew we were moving leaving the army within 6 months. So he'd said to me, he goes, look, all these carpets are going to have to get changed because there's been water in the house. I was like, right. He goes, and you know the damage to the walls, and I was like, what fucking damage? You know, that fucking wood chip wallpaper.
Right? I'm lucky we don't have it here.
Yeah, well, this quarter it was everywhere. Well, I had 2 dogs at the time, and they used to run up and down a passage, and they dropped it all off on one wall. So he basically said to me, he goes, look, this house is getting redecorated. It hasn't been redecorated for 7 years. You know, you're going to move out. The garden's been written off because it keeps getting flooded because it needs a drainage, you know, stuff put in it. And the carpets are all getting changed. So literally, you know, he's like, wink, wink. Don't worry about the quarter when you leave. But we had that. We'd paid that money for someone to come and clean the cooker and do this and do that and all that. Because I'd moved off camp. I'd gone. I was working in a civvy job.
Yeah.
And then I come back and had my quarter in. or hand me quarter in, hand me quarter over. And it was a different guy. But all the paperwork was right. And he's like, well, this, that, and the other. I said, whoa, I'm doing fuck all in this quarter. I got told this, that, and the other. And he says, well, have you got your certificate to say that you've paid for the money to do? Yeah, there it is. There's the copy of the email. There's the certificate for the cleaner and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah. What about your garage? I said, oh, they're going to do that. No, they're not. They don't do the garages. And stand-up arguments about it, And now I was leaving the army. I didn't give a toss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and in the end, he just looked at me and went, and he'd give up. He just give up. He went, right, just go.
Yeah.
But I've had so many horror stories of people moving quarters. We had one.
Literally.
They lost our furniture.
See,
literally for a week.
And this still happens. Our season 2, episode 1, we read about some of the most outrageous march-in stories. It is ridiculous. We're so lucky. I absolutely love this house that we're in. But when we turned up to move in on our marching day, and the builders were everywhere. And I walked in and I was like, we're moving in today. And they were like, well, you're not. And I was like, well, I am, because all my shit is in the removal van out there that I've hired for the day. I've taken the day off work. And they were like, you can't move in because you haven't got any carpets, because we were due to move in the previous week. And then we got a call to say you can't move in. The house is flooded. Because next door, the whole ceiling collapsed next door. It was covered in mould. They'd gone away on holiday and a pipe had burst.
Right.
And then it come in here, so they had to repaint and recarpet it. And the lady, the housing officer, turned up and was like, I was like, well, there's builders in there. And she was like, oh. And she had no idea as well. And I was like, someone needs to freaking find out here, because I have paid for this removal van privately because of the horror stories I've heard of people losing furniture, them not turning up, and then they're stuck. So I bought this. It was a self-hired van drive. I'd never driven a van in my life. I actually drove that removal van into the back of my brand new Mercedes at the time, which was fantastic. And I was like, well, why does no one know? You work for the company that's arranged the march-in. Why does no one know what's going on? Oh, we're just going to have to move it. And I said, well, you need to find a place for me to put all my shit, because I'm not hiring a van again. I'm not doing it. I'm not taking it back, unloading all my crap, and then having to store it somewhere to reload it to march in a few days' time. It's not happening. She agreed to then let us put it in the garage, luckily. But there is just so many horror stories with march-ins. But then you've got my march-in to my first quarter behind the wire was fine. Really good.
I
Perfect.
mean, the way we used to do it, I don't know if they have different ways of doing it now, the different services or whatever, but the way we did it, because we moved as a whole, you'd have people nominated from each subunit, like a sergeant major, an officer, a senior rank, or even a full screw or whatever, and they would go an advance party, and they would take the quarters over. You know what I mean? So it wasn't just because it's a one-for-one swap. When we moved to Topcliffe, they were moving down as we were moving up. The fucking house was still warm when we went in. You know what I mean? Type thing. And that's why they were being so stringent then when we left there, because literally an hour or two after I'd walked out that door, somebody was going into it.
Yeah.
They were moving straight in. But I've had quarters where, the one where they lost my furniture, we walked into the quarter in Lark Hill, and it'd been empty for about 6 or 7 months, this quarter. It was musty. It was clean. It was dusty.
Had that not lived in musty smell.
Yeah, and the case of, do you accept it? Well, you can't say fucking no, can you? But I have seen people say no, right?
Yeah, people do, but then it's the whole faff of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I moved, we said, I've lived in worse. Oh, fucking hell. Just. And we took the quarter over. And we were waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Where's the fucking truck like? It was winter time. We put the heating on, and we had nothing in the house, right? And it got really musty and smelly because we put the heating on. You know, that type, when the dust on radiators and that.
Yeah.
So I went round and opened all the windows. You know, the old Nordic, get the Nordic air in type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was like a scene from the fucking Exorcist, The Omen, or something like that. It was like a horror movie. Honestly, there was that many dormant flies in the windowsills. Of course, now it's warm. I've opened them; they've all sprang to life. Literally, all 3 bedrooms were covered in flies. It was fucking horrendous, horrible.
That is awful.
The fucking the furniture didn't turn up that night. We had nothing to sleep on. We took the curtains down and wrapped ourselves in the curtains.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'd dropped my kids up, my mum and dad's up in Grantham, and me and the wife at the time just curled up under some curtains and laid on the floor in the living room for the night. Went to the family's office the next morning and said blah blah blah. They said, "Oh no, you'll have to get on to Pickford's," because it was Pickford's had moved us from Germany.
Oh, okay,
what happened is, at the same time I was coming back from Germany on my own, there was a regiment moving to Tidworth, and they says, "Oh, we don't know where your truck." So, the truck was half loaded with our furniture and half loaded with somebody else's furniture. So they took the one to Tidworth, dropped it off, and then parked it up on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And so somebody come pick it up later. And I was like, well, I know where it is because I can see it. You know what I mean? I recognise the truck.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh no, there's nothing we can do. We haven't got a driver. I've got no fucking furniture. We had to go out and buy quilts and stuff like that just to keep. We had it for a week. No furniture for a week. I was waiting to work. Nobody give a shit.
No,
nobody
they
give
don't.
a shit.
It's hard because there's so many good aspects to it. Like, you can't complain with the subsidised rent and things like that and stuff like that. And they say, and everyone's like, you get your house, come to the real world and rent privately. And it's like, okay, we get subsidised rent, yeah. But does that mean that our house should not be livable? Does that mean that we should have, there's people around here that are just living with black mold everywhere and things like that. And is that acceptable because we pay less rent? No,
it's not.
And also it's also not that we just pay less rent. If we were to go to war tomorrow, who is it that's fighting to protect civilians?
Yeah,
Our
no,
husbands.
You don't have to convince me.
but that's a lot of the
you're
stuff
right.
that I get.
That's
online.
That is, it's the perks of the job. When the last quarter I had, about like subsidised rent there.
Yeah.
All right, this was 12. I moved into it 18 years ago and left it 12 years ago, so I was in it for like 6 years. And they kept, I'd been offered to move off camp because we had quarter areas in, on the outskirts of Newcastle.
Yeah.
Places like that. One in Tynemouth. Oh God, I didn't know that until later. I'd have moved there. They cost a lot more. It was like 400 odd quid a month, and I'm like, fuck, I'm not paying that.
Yeah.
Because the quarter I had on camp was a 3-bedroom semi-detached house with a massive garden, and I was paying 110 quid a month.
Oh my God! And it's definitely not £110 a month now. I'll tell you that.
But the thing is that the houses were old. These were built in the 30s because it was an RAF station to start with.
Yeah.
And some of the quarters, some of them fucking older than that. And they weren't lovely and all tickety-boo, and it's not like what you see. They're not on TikTok full of fucking grey furniture and white walls and stuff like that. Some of the quarters are fucking rough. And they are rough.
They 100% still are. The new standard of housing that's been released, absolutely incredible.
I was interviewed one of my old mates who was at Larkhill, and he was on about where he lived, and I was like, hang on a minute, when I was there, that didn't even fucking exist. So they built a brand new estate at Larkhill, and as soon as after I'd finished talking to him, I was straight on Google Maps, and I was just like, hang on a minute.
Yeah,
they have. What?
Yeah, they have white walls, they have new radiators, new bath, new sink, wooden floor, wooden countertops, and they are
I was just like,
absolutely beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is good, and it should be right. I mean,
Yeah, but
I've
it
lived.
shouldn't have taken that long.
No, it shouldn't have taken that long. I mean, that at one time the MOD used to own all the quarters, right? And then in the 90s they went, we can't afford the upkeep, so we're going to sell them all. So they sold them all to the housing associations that bought them, and then we'll rent them back, right? Because the cost was going to be less cost. So,
I don't know how that works, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and there's still quarters that have been left empty, and there's camps that are left empty and stuff like that. And
There's
it's
so many derelict camps.
yeah,
There's quite a few in Aldershot, and you drive past them. It's such a shame. It's these massive buildings, and you think, oh, it's such a shame that it's just nothing in there. I mean, I'm pretty sure they get squatters and everything now, but like, yeah, it is a shame, and no one's really. We're not asking for something ridiculous in our military quarters, but like I said, what I don't agree with is new standard of housing, absolutely beautiful. And they're doing these houses up. Certain houses, if they need kind of a full renovation, they're doing them up with the new style.
yeah.
However, you've still got people, families mainly, who are living in housing where they've got, black mold growing up the wall. They've got leaks. That some of them don't have hot water. We had 6 months in the middle of cold season last year without a boiler, and the chasing to get it fixed was ridiculous. So why are they putting? Although it's lovely, and don't get me wrong, I would absolutely love a new standard house, but why are they not putting that money that they're spending on renovating these empty houses into sorting out the issues that in the lived-in houses for families?
It's probably cheaper.
But
it's probably cheaper to do them ones up and fucking just leave yous for a bit.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, we're very lucky we don't have those issues, but.
Well, I've known. I've had mold and stuff like that, but I've never had it where it was bad, where mushrooms were growing. And some of them quarters we lived in Gosport, that's what it was like.
Yeah.
There were fucking mushrooms growing there in the quarters, and it was,
a friend of mine had a gas leak. And they checked it all over on March and said it's absolutely fine. And I'm pretty sure, like, her child developed a cough or something, and she called them out, and they were like, "Oh, they haven't put this in properly," like, and she had to move out, and she was like, "What the hell?" Like, and she had a newborn. Like, how can, just because you do a bodge job? And when I did that video, that joke, we live in military housing video that went insanely crazy, actually someone who works for the housing association says, I work for I think it was Pinnacle. There's loads of different housing associations dependent on where you're based, but I work for Pinnacle, and I'm a painter and decorator. And I responded back and I said, why is the paint all over the skirting board and the light switches if you're a professional painter and decorator? Like, and he goes, and he responded back and he said, I would, on behalf of all us painter and decorators, would like to formally apologise, because we are given literally an hour and a half to 2 hours to paint an entire quarter. And I was just like,
I've seen it.
I was like, no one's blaming. It's not the person who's decorating's fault at all, but there's not enough funding for it, and they don't give them enough time for the turnaround for all this stuff. So why aren't they, instead of doing up quarters to make them look nice, which again, like I said, is lovely, and God, I would love one, but why aren't they just making the houses that aren't livable now livable? And I know you said it's cheaper, but it should be a priority. People's health and their home should be a priority.
It's nice to see that fuck all's changed. All right? Because it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same.
I know.
I mean, do you still get military furniture? Because our first quarter we moved in, because like I explained to you earlier, I had a pushchair and a pram, and we had the army sofa, the army dining table.
Yeah.
I wish I'd kept that dining table. It was solid.
To be
the army
fair,
beds, stuff like that. It took us a while to get rid of them.
yeah. I mean, we don't have anything because I lived. My parents moved to Spain. I was living on
Stole
my
all
own.
their stuff.
Yeah, I stole all of them. No, because I had, my own bed. I had various things, so I had quite a lot of furniture anyway, and I had a TV and blah blah blah. But that is such a great thing that there's, like I said, we're very quick to talk about the negatives, and I know that I am. But there are so many positives as well. There are, like, the furniture. If you're a family, and again going back to the careers thing, and you're a partner that you're only going to be there 6 months, you can't get a job, you might not be able to afford furniture.
So you might not be able to get fucking finance because you're in the army.
Yeah, exactly. So being able to get that furniture is a godsend, and it's absolutely brilliant, and I do rate it for that. But yeah, no, you can still get it. It is very basic stuff. It's good. It works. It does the job, but yeah.
So let's leave the army life alone then, and
oh God,
we've been on for nearly 2 hours now.
Have we? Oh my gosh!
It's
time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, I can talk bollocks like you as well. You know what I mean? So just crack on. So I found you on TikTok, and God, that sounds really fucking seedy. I found you on TikTok with your OnlyFans advert. No, honestly, no, that's not right.
Don't out me. That's for Leroy only, that one.
Yeah. Oh, you got the cups now, haven't you? Yeah, I've seen that.
I do.
I found Sophie on TikTok and approached her to come on the podcast because the videos I'd seen on there made me laugh, made me chuckle. If people don't realise, like, from my generation or a bit older or whatever, or you've just not been on TikTok, it's not full of just like teenage kids dancing. God, that sounds fucking bad as well.
Yeah, it's not full of Generation Z.
Yeah,
dancing.
There is a huge community of veterans and military on there, and some very good content, some really interesting stuff, and there's lots of people who are promoting veterans associations and stuff like that. There's some really good stuff on there. There's negatives, and I have found that it can be a bit of a toxic environment. I've been quite lucky that I've not had much feedback in that, negative feedback on there. Well, anyway, I'd seen you on there. How did you get into that?
To be honest, I've always like I mentioned earlier, I did performing arts and stuff as studies, and it was my ultimate dream to be a movie star when I was younger. Obviously, now hitting the age, now that I'm 30 and I'm not a movie star, that didn't go very well for me. But I always loved being. I loved entertaining, and I love seeing people laugh, and I love, being around my friends and making a joke, and then just seeing that I've made them smile. And I know that sounds a bit selfish, because I enjoy it, but I just loved. I love being around people and making them laugh, and brightening up their day a little. And I started posting. I started a blog in university, and I actually wrote about the reasons why I left university. Right. And then I started getting a few brand deals through the blog. And then I stopped for a bit because I lost interest and things like that. And TikTok wasn't around when I did that. And then when TikTok came, I kind of started doing all, in lockdown, there was fuck all else to do. So, I was on TikTok jumping on all the trends. I won't even beat around the bush, but wasn't really taking it seriously. When Josh and I got married, I did a lot of it DIY. I created and made all our invitations. I did our seating plan and everything like that. And a lot of the inspiration did come from TikTok and Pinterest and things like that. And I started filming when I was making the invitations or doing things like that. And then I don't know, I got to like 1,000 followers or something, which when I first hit that, I was like, oh wow, I've got 1,000 followers, you know. And then moving into military housing, I said to Josh, I said, this is going to be our home, right? I'm going to make it a home. I'm not living in a box and not making it homey. I'm just not doing that. And I started looking around because I was trying to see what the housing was like. I was trying to find information to see what other spouses had done. And there was some, but a lot of it was in America. And I just couldn't find any information. So when I moved in, I was like, I'm going to start posting about my journey into making my military house a home. And then I started learning about all the stigmas of being a padwife, you know, laundry powder on the windowsill, Leroy coming to visit, and things like that.
I wasn't going to go down that route anyway, so.
Oh, why not? It's all we ever talk about as padwives. It's our whole personality.
I'm not being funny, but I've seen fucking too much of it. That's why.
And yeah, and like you said, stereotypes come from somewhere, and it's because it's happened and happens. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Remember, it's a little village. Everybody's there.
Exactly. Yeah. Why do you think I left base? I couldn't have Leroy over. Everyone knew.
Signing him in and out, that's a bit much, though. You know what I mean?
I know. They all caught on to me. And then I came across a few other military spouses who did similar things, or it was about motherhood and things like that. And I thought, oh, this is great, but there's still not many. And I now know why. Because of the backlash you get. Yeah. And that's fine, because some of them, one of which, Padwives Assemble, was actually a hate comment from someone. And I was like, yeah. Someone put, oh, bloody hell.
I love it. I think it's brilliant, that is.
Yeah, someone literally commented, oh, bloody hell, Padwives have assembled. And I was like, Padwives Assemble. And that was the creation of Padwives Assemble. And I looked at the market.
Have you registered the domain yet?
Oh, do you know what? My husband keeps going on about that, to trademark it.
I'll register the domain for you tomorrow.
Can you do it?
If it's not been taken, yeah.
Oh, I don't think it has.
I'll check tonight, and if it hasn't, I'll register it.
Oh, thank you.
And then get you the details.
Yeah, thank you. Right. But yeah, so, and then I got more and more following, and then I had the viral video, and this was my first experience of hate from the army and the military. Ooh, and, you know, some of it was brutal, and that video ended up in the Sun. I don't even know how. It ended up in the Sun newspaper. I don't, yeah. My friend sent me a message with a link and was like, did you send this to the Sun? And I was like, did I send it to the Sun? What the hell? And then I just started seeing the humour in the whole community and started looking. And that was my first thing into laundry powder and Leroy and everything. And I was like, oh my God, everyone's missing a trick here, because there will be so many people in this boat. And it's a shame, and I do get a lot of messages now that I would love to start a TikTok about my family lifestyle as a spouse, but I'm quite worried about the hate comments and stuff. And that was the gap in the market. And
have you had any backlash from the military? Actually, you know, from the MOD or anything like that? Or
no. And
battalion?
One thing I've always said, and I've always made very, very clear. So I obviously said to Josh, because Josh got a bit of backlash from the lads in the block, and I said to him, if at any point it becomes stupid, I'll stop. I don't I'll stop. But he was like, do you know what? And he finds it hilarious as well. Like, someone commented, like, by the way, your husband's cheating on you. And I was like, okay. All right.
Prove it.
Yeah, I was like, I think I replied, that's all right, because I've got Leroy over it while he's deployed. Like, we laugh about it because we've got such a strong relationship. Like, it's fine. And, you know, whatever. I've lost my train of thought. I don't even know what you fucking asked me. Yeah, backlash from the military.
Yeah.
So I said,
I almost had as well, so it's not just
I was
yourself.
like, fuck, what am I talking about? And I said to him, I'm gonna make it very, very clear that I will never comment on the military itself, or what he does, or where he is at the time when he's away. I won't do that. I don't know enough about it to talk or comment on it, so it wouldn't be fair. 2, I would never jeopardize his career.
Yeah.
And 3, I'm not gonna lie, I don't fucking care.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's, you know, there'll be one day you will probably say something or step over a line.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I mean, hopefully they don't come for you, but it's a fucking big, you know, it's a big fucking machine.
Yeah, I know, but
you know, it is.
I won't ever talk, like, it's not my place to talk about what's going on there. I don't work for the MOD. I have nothing to do with it. And I won't say it. I will talk about my experiences and my experiences only. And I wanted to give spouses a voice.
Yeah.
And I wanted to turn what can be very, very shit and very, very lonely and isolating into something better and something more positive. And it's so nice seeing the community grow. There's so many military podcasts out there now. Like, there's a Navy one, there's a Patch Life podcast, and I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe Boo's stationed in America at the moment, and she talks about that, and she has different people connections, a bit like you in the military.
Yeah.
And she talks about it, and it's so good to see that it's expanding and giving people like myself and others a voice to talk and feel less alone and have a giggle along the way.
It's that less alone bit that you just mentioned there. I mean, as I've touched on before in other podcasts I've done, I do this because I was bored and I'd isolated myself.
Yeah.
And when there's lots of, when bloody, I'll get my words out. There's, like you said, there's lots of military podcasts. There's lots of podcasts like what I do, and I think they're all better than mine.
It's very easy to be self-critical, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a confidence thing as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's helped me get my mojo back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd left the army and I isolated myself from everything, from the military and stuff like that. And I found myself really, I got to the point where I wouldn't leave the house. Unless I was going to work or this or that. I didn't get involved in reunions or anything like that. And this has brought me back out. I mean, fucking hell. I went to a reunion. I went to a reunion a week ago and I wore a suit for the first time since I left the army. Mind you, the suit I had when I left the army wouldn't have fit me now. So, luckily I had a friend who ended up about the same size as me. So I was like, I'll have that suit. Thank you very much. That'll fit.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of communities out there. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all the stuff that old bastards like me go. All the young ones are all on now. Well, they're not. It's not just the young ones.
And like I said, it's so nice. Like, I have met so many great people. We spoke about Alex Harrison earlier, yourself now doing this, collaborating together and bringing the serving world, the veteran world, the family world and the spouse world all together and sharing these stories. But I say that it was to give spouses a voice and and to help people, but and like you said, it has helped me so much as well. as confidence. It's also allowed me to, you know, share personal experiences that I'm an R sometimes, and I'm like, am I going to share that? And I said, you know what? If I share this and it helps one person feel less alone, I'll be happy.
You know, the amount of stuff I come off these podcasts and think some of the times I've said things that I've overshared, you know, but that's the type of person I am.
Yeah.
You know, when I was confident, when I was in the army, when I was doing this, doing it, when I was normal, never been
Yeah.
fucking normal.
Not when you're in the army, no.
Well, you know, I do overshare, but that's just the way I am. And
I'm exactly the same.
yeah, you know, fucking hell, keep us both out the same room then. Fucking hell, we'd suck all the
We'd
oxygen
know
out.
each other's darkest secrets within an
Yes,
hour.
believe me, you don't want to know some of mine. I've got a lot more history than you, put it that way. Right, well, it's been 2 hours. I think
My phone's going to die as well.
Yeah, we'll end on a high. It's been lovely having you on. I was surprised. I was actually coming into this thinking, oh, what am I going to talk about? This is so different than what I normally do. And here we are 2 hours later. You know, it's been
I know.
great.
I mean, yeah, I'd chat to anyone, to be honest. So yeah, no, I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for having me on and giving me the chance. And we'll have to get you on Padwives Assemble.
Oh, don't know
get
about
you
that
and
one.
Alex on together.
Oh, I don't know about that. No, that means you never know. Right, I'll stop the recording here. Right, stopping that. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. I enjoyed recording it. If you could just hit the like button, and also if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell, that would be great, because it will help the channel grow. The more people will see it, the bigger it'll get, and the more guests I can get on, and the more people I can talk to. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, like I said. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully we'll be out next week as normal. Bye-bye now.